Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Quilters Apothecary. Today, we are doing another in the Mystical Dimensional series, the 3Ds, the Mystical Dimensional number 3, which is wonderful. I love this one. And what you can see here is this wonderful tumbling ledge design, which nests into itself. And of course, what you need is your mystical dimensional number 3, as well as a ditch ruler. And that's all you need to create this wonderful 3D design. So let's head over to the paper first, and we're going to draw this out, and you're going to see some options of what you can put in there to really make it pop. We are now ready to draw out our mystical ledge design, which is the dimensional number 3. And when we do that, what we're going to do is whatever space we're going to be quilting it in, we would have located the center and put a vertical line through to keep everything lined up perfect. Now, of course, as usual, if you're marking on a quilt in color, you would be using the Bowen Thin, because I like a nice thin line to be able to quilt against rather than something wide. And then, of course, if I were marking on white fabric, I would use the Marks Be Gone and then the blue line erase to get rid of the line. But now we're going to be drawing, so I'm going to be using my Sharpie and my pencil to mark it on, and both of those are going to signify our marking tools on the quilt. So now what I'm going to do, we have this set up so that down here is the belly bar where you would be standing and marking this from the freehand side. Then I'm at the back of the machine right now so that way you can get a good visual on how this works. So on this particular ruler, what we have is we have these wonderful Y lines. You see a Y. And that, when you are facing it, is exactly what you want to see. Y, as in, why me? So now I'm going to line that up. I'm going to come right up to the tip top. Now maybe I would have marked in 1/4 of an inch seam allowance for the binding so that way you're not cutting off the tips. I would line that up. And the first thing I'm going to do is to use my chalk, and there's a hole right in the center. I'm going to center that mark, and I'm going to put a mark right there in the center so that way when I do the dimensional lines in there, I have a line to aim towards. So now I'm going to mark the outside of this shape just like we do in our other shapes. Down and up, over, and come up the other side. Get that in. So now again, you want to make sure to put a little mark right in the center of that hole. Now I'm going to take this and I'm going to slide it down, line it up exact right on there, make sure that this line stays right on the chalk line. Now if you notice that you're seeing a double line, what's happened is you have your ruler flipped upside down. So you want to make sure that as you do this, you can actually read Mystical Dimensional number 3, Quilter's Apothecary, rather than have it be upside down and flipped, because you want the etching towards the fabric or the paper. So now I'm going to line that up perfect on this side, and now I'm going to repeat that. It's going to nest right into the previous one. Okay, now remember, before you move this, you don't want to forget to put in your little middle mark. If you do, it's not a big deal. You just put it back and go through all of them and get that middle mark at the end. But I like to do it as I go. Line that up. Keep working your way down within the space of your design area that you want to fill this with. My little spot right there in the center. Slide it down. That's going to be the last one in that space. Line that up, and you'd be working in your throat space. Make sure that that's lined up nice. I'm going to go ahead and do my little center first. Go up, come back. I need to talk Mr. Ritchie into getting me some new markers here. This guy's wearing out. And markers around here are gold. He's very stingy about buying me new markers because he thinks I have millions of them, which I might somewhere. All right, so now we have that marked. So that first row is all done. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I am going to start my next row. I'm going to offset that just like that, and you can see just so it's staggered. And now I'm going to repeat that process and come right up next to that row, and I'm going to work my way this way in my space. And then once that's all full, I'm going to come back to the center and I'm going to work my way that way, all the way out to the edge of the area that I'm going to quilt. Again, I want to make sure that that's lined up. What I love about this one is that, again, all you need is a ditch ruler for this, and this is going to quilt out beautifully, especially once you get all your marks in to give you that wonderful cube ledge look to it. It's a wonderful effect in the background, especially for our modern quilts. Now I'm going to slide down, line that up, get it just right. Now we'll repeat that. When you're not worried about cameras, this goes extremely fast on fabric. Make sure to get that center and move on. The other day, I did this on a wonderful 12-inch border, starting from the center out. And just for each border to mark it out, it took me probably about 20 minutes per border, and I ended up with this wonderful quilt design. Inside of a border. Because again, you don't just need open space. You could put this and center it right in a border. Especially when we start adding our fillers to it. It'll give it a wonderful look. Okay, come back, and I'll come back in just a second and put in my center mark there. Line that up. Okay, bring that back, go ahead. Give myself my center there that I forgot. Come down, and now I'm just going to complete row by row out to the edge, and we'll do this at double time. Okay, now something that I want to show here is that right here I'm hanging off the edge on this side by about 1/8 of an inch, and I can see that I'm about 1/8 of an inch down right here on that line. So when I move this ruler out of the way, I'm just going to come and I'm going to put that tick here so that that way when I go ahead and draw those lines here, I can hit that and have it look exact without hitting right here, which would be incorrect. I want to go about 1/8 of an inch down. So again, when I have this nested here, you can see when that's in line that this is about 1/8 of an inch off the edge of the fabric, or in this case, the paper. And so when I actually draw this, I want to make sure that I take that into account because I'm going to need a registration line when I quilt my straight line. And so again, let me put my center here. When I go over here, now I'm going to come down about 1/8 of an inch and put that line right there, so that way when I connect here and here and here to get my ledge effect, that's going to be accurate. It's going to look right to the eye. Because again, it's all about how does it look to the eye. So now we'll finish this and then we'll come back and I'll show you the next step. Okay, now on this last edge, we're going to have a line that divides down here to continue that illusion of the ledge. So I'm going to put this here. I'm going to see where that line goes. And I'm just going to put a little tick right on there so that I know where to end it, again, to make that illusion look as real as possible. Let me just do a quick double check here. Line that up, and that guy was a little bit off, so I need to make sure to put him 1/8 of an inch down. And now we will move on to our next step. Okay, so now that we have that marked out, now we're going to go in and we're going to put in our dimension lines, which is why we have that center marked on each one of those. So I'm going to start here at the top, and what I'm going to do in each one of these shapes is simply go right to that point, and I'm going to go right here from the tip of this side, and then from the bottom to recreate that Y shape, which is going to give me that wonderful ledge effect. So I'm going to go here, line, and any straight ruler that you have in your studio that you like to handle in your hand will work perfect. Now you could be smart. You could take a longer ruler and kind of line it up like that and just go from the middle down, from the middle down, from the middle down. You could then turn it on its side, and as long as everything lines up okay, you could repeat that process this way. Down, down, and slide that and get that little guy in there. Down. Did I hit it? I did. Okay, and then repeat the same thing on the way up. I'll turn this so you can see it a little better. Line that up, 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 and you're going to go ahead and you're going to put that Y shape in all of these existing shapes. And then I'll come back and we'll talk about different ideas that we can use to make this even more dimensional. So now what I'd like us to do is we're going to take this wonderful 3D ledge shape and we're going to add some dimension to it. So I'm going to keep the top of the ledge clear. And what I'm going to do is we're going to focus on both the right and the left side. So the first option, I'm going to take a straight ruler, I'm going to line that up, and I'm going to miter that way and that way, of course in chalk. These are just your markings. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and pre-mark in 1/4 of an inch inside. Now you can use 1/2 of an inch, you can use however wide you want to make yours. You could use 1/8 of an inch, whichever size you want to use. But for this example, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use 1/4. I would pre-mark it and then I would quilt it. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use my marker, which would signify the quilting line. So I'm going to go up there, turn that ruler, line it up. Same thing, you're going to follow that angle, 2, 3, and then of course I'm going to go ahead and line that up and repeat that on the other side. Now that's going to give me an area that I'm going to put, in this case, a little sash design right inside there just to give it a little bit of dimension and movement. And then I'll hop over to the other side and repeat that same process. Go in 1/4 of an inch. And that's why I like to put this line right here, because now if I just go ahead and quilt it, I know to go right up to that line, turn my ruler, line it up, and go right over. I don't even have to pre-mark it if I don't want to. Okay, so now line that up. Come up, turn my ruler, realign it, over. I'm going to go ahead and thicken that line just because I want to. Okay, so now what we've done on both sides is we've created this wonderful area. I'm going to get rid of my chalk mark, just because. There we go. Got to be careful when I do that. I just had hot chocolate. Don't want chocolate all over my quilt or my drawing. Okay, so now I'm going to quilt a sash design on both sides heading up. I'm going to mirror it against itself and right up through. So I'm going to start here, and I'm going to do my traditional swirl, which is of course is a tutorial up for my basic swirl, and it's going to be that first sash design rather than the edge to edge. So I'm going to come out, swirl, echo around the back of the head, come up, swirl, echo around the back of the head once, twice, swirl, echo around the back of the head once, twice, swirl, echo around the back of the head once, twice, swirl, echo around the back of the head once, twice, swirl, and again, that tutorial is called the basic swirl, and I think it's a 3-parter if I remember correctly. And the first one covers an edge to edge, and then it covers a couple different sash designs. So I'm just going to go ahead and end that there. I'm going to slide up and go ahead and put my spikes and space them so that it fits right dimensionally. Okay, lock my stitches and then or follow the ditch down, and I can start on this side. Now, since this one faced in towards the center line, this one's going to mirror it exactly the same way. So I'm going to swirl in toward the center, echo once, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, come around, follow that up, give that illusion, 2, lock my stitches. So now I have this wonderful dimensional 3D shelf block. And now let me give you a couple more ideas. Okay, so another option to make this a little more dimensional with our quilting is we take the middle Y line, which is this line right here, and we're going to go from both sides out to the edge this way. So from the center out one way and then the center out the opposite way. So now I'm going to go eighth of an inch, you can go a quarter of an inch, you can go a half of an inch, you decide what it is that you choose to do. So there's that, slide, and again, I would pre-mark this before I actually quilt it, that way you don't even have to think about it. You can just go ahead with those lines in there and just quilt up, down, follow the ditch, slide, back, up, down. But again, I would have my marks there so that I don't run into, what's her name? Eileen. Eileen one way or the other. We don't want to run into Eileen. And when you pre-mark, you make sure, you guarantee that she stays where she belongs in her own apartment. Slide up, and I'm just going to take that one all the way to the edge. You don't have to, but you can. Up, down, over, down, over. And if you only have a quarter inch, then what I would do is I would simply go ahead and I would go ahead and put your quarter inch in and then just kind of visually go and divide them in half and then go in and do your filler in between the two. Okay, so now we've gone that way, and now we're going to work our way from the center back out the opposite way. So line that up. And that's going to give that wonderful dimensional look from the center out. I'm going to err just a little bit further on this one so that I can meet. And then line that up with that. Okay, so now we have that. Now what I could do is I could go ahead and go in here and I could go in and fill in every other one of these if I wanted to do micro or pebbles in there. Depends on, again, how crazy do you want to be. And I might repeat that same process. I might go ahead and leave these two from the center out blank and then every other one on the way out so that way it's perfectly balanced and it's not going to throw the eye off. Let me show you one more and then we'll head to the machine and we'll quilt some of this out. For our third option for you to play with to make this look a little more dimensional, again, the options are endless. I am going to take this and we're going to repeat that miter line with chalk here and here. And then instead of going from the center out straight up, we're actually going to give it an angle turn. So we're going to line that up. Up, stop, line it up, and you want to make sure, even if you're a little bit off, I would rather not trust the measurement, but actually trust where this stops. Over, down, and again, this is one that I would pre-mark this section before you go. I always know when I pre-mark that I can fix something. But boy, when I quilt it, and I see right there, that's actually a little wider. So I'm going to go ahead and make that just a little wider because I want to meet right at that mark that's there. I'm going to use the mark. This miter is my true. Up, turn, turn, need a little no ruler slippage there. A little piece of my handy grip on the back of this ruler while I'm marking. Remember, even your marking rulers, you can put a little piece of that handy grip, and that's going to keep that ruler nice and stable for you. I'm going to go in one more, or I might leave that one wide. And then I'm going to repeat that on the other side. Line that up, come up, turn, line it up, and over. Line it up, over, stop, turn, down. Work over just like we did on the other side. Up, down, up, we're going to leave that last one wide, and so that's going to give us that wonderful dimension as well. So now I could actually go ahead and give it a little bit more dimension there on top as well. I could line this up here, and I could go into, now that we have our line there, I could over, turn, line, over, and then come up from the bottom, repeat the same, and I'm going up about 1/4 of an inch. Line, 1/4 of an inch, line, and I could go ahead and do something such as give myself a figure 8. Now I could feather all the way over, get myself a curvy line, double bump, head up, vein, follow that back, swirl back, bump, frond, bump, frond, back, bump, frond, back, bump, frond, bump, frond. You can put anything in that space you want. We could even use that one sash. I'm just going to do a double bump there, follow my spine back, and then repeat that on the top. Back, bump, frond. Or you could leave that top blank, whatever you prefer to do. Again, this is why you sit in front of your TV in the evening with paper and your rulers, and you sit and you practice. We are performers. You want to remember, you don't wait till opening night to learn your lines. You sit and you practice, that way you know what to do when the quilt comes in. Double bump, come back, back, bump, frond, back, bump, frond. So again, the sky is the limit. There are a few ideas for you, and now we are going to head over to the machine, and we're going to take this and put it on fabric. So now let me set you up on the sample that we have here. And again, this design can be done in anything. It can be done in a block. It can be done in a border. And down the road, we're going to be doing some border tutorials with this. But right now, we're going to be doing it simply in an open space. For example, like a modern quilt section or even the background of a piece section that's fairly stable color-wise. So what I've done is this would be the space I would be doing this particular design in, our number 3 dimensional, and then I would have located the center and put a reference line down the center, and down from the edge I went down to signify if this were the binding, a quarter of an inch, and I drew a line straight across there. That way I'm not going to cut off the tips of the design itself. So I'm going to take the ruler, I'm going to slide it right up to the registration line. I'm going to make sure that this is lined up all the way down here. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to give myself a little tick right there in the center so that I can see where that is. Let me extend my chalk just a little bit more. Give myself my little tick. And now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to mark the outside from the top down. And remember, I want to make my marks as close to the ruler as I can. I don't want to shift my pencil this way so that I'm off. These rulers work best, and yes, you can fudge them, but these rulers work best when you're right up against the edge of the ruler. So now I'm going to take that and I'm going to slide down, darken my little spot a little bit better, and I'm going to nest it right into the previous. I'm going to line that up. Not only am I looking up here where I'm nesting, but I'm also going to look down here, and I'm going to continue that all the way down within my throat space, nesting it right into itself, right up against, slide down, continue. I'll come back and put that middle in that I just forgot. Now, rather than go next to it and head up, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to come right up to the top, and I'm going to line that up right next to itself. Of course, I'm going to offset it. And I'm going to continue all the way over from the center out to the left, and then, of course, from the center out to the right. We'll get all of our marks on there, and then we'll go in and we will do our quilting. So now I've worked my way all the way over in this sample, and then typically I would have worked my way all the way to the right, but just for the sake of the video tutorial, we're going to do this section. So now what I also did then is my middle mark that I had marked on all of those spots on the ruler, right there. Now we're going to build our ledge. So of course I would come up and I would do my ups all the way from bottom up. Now this one is fairly simple because this was the middle where we had that middle registration line. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to come back down and I'm going to line up from the center out to that tip, just like we did on our drawing. Putting in our Y. Why not? And that's going to give us that wonderful ledge dimension. Now I'm not going to worry about going in and putting in this registration line so that we can do whatever fill we're going to do. We're going to worry about that once we actually get the base all quilted. Then we'll go in and do that. So then again, I would do that on all of them, normally working my way all the way over, but we're going to focus on this side right now for the video tutorial. So now I have my stitch regulator set at 12 stitches per inch, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down and I am going to go ahead and do my typical 1, 2, 3 because this is a design motif that I want to pop, and then I will 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and I'll work my way down row by row. Line that up. 1, 2, 3, stop, shift, 1, 2, 3, 4, stop, shift, 1, 2, 3, stop, shift, 1, 2, 3, stop, shift. And I'm going to work my way all the way over. 2, 3, stop, shift, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. And this is the point where you would put on a nice book on tape or have some good music going. This is going to be your tedious work. 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, or what I like to call my factory work. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now the key is to work your way row by row, taking your time. If you're off a little bit, the one key to remember is perfection is overrated. It's still going to look amazing. 2, 3. Remember your marking lines are going to go away. So what they're going to see is what you've actually quilted. Okay, so now we're going to go inside of our space and I'm going to show you one of the options, and you're going to come up with a ton of different options on your own just like we did at the drawing board. But here I just put a diagonal line here, and then I went in 1/4 of an inch up, over, in, up, over, in, up, over, up, and over. So now let's go ahead and quilt that out. Put that back on precision. 1, 2, 3, stop, pivot. 1, 2, 3, stop, head up. I want to make sure to stay in the ditch there. Stop. 1, 2, 3, stop, pivot. 1, 2, 3. Now I'm going to go back to cruise, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go into that space. Swirl out, back. I'm going to put my filler in. Now I could have done both sides first before I came back to do the filler. Back, out, in, out. Excuse my sloppiness. I'm doing one-handed so we can get a good shot here. Out, lock my stitches, and then I'm simply going to follow my ditch back, and we're going to do this side. Go back to precision rather than cruise. Start up again. Line that up. 1, 2, 3, stop, pivot. 1, 2, 3, stop, pivot, down, come back. 1, 2, 3, stop, pivot. 1, 2, 3, down, and I'm going to go down to the bottom part because that's where I start, because I want to mirror it to my other side. So we're going to go over to cruise, swirl out, echo, in, echo, out, echo, in, echo, all the way up. And so you would continue. Now, I would probably keep all of this design going up, straight up this row. And then if I wanted to alternate designs, I would go ahead and put a different design in the next row, and then maybe alternate back to that one for this row, and that way we're doing every other row. But you know, it's your game. You play it the way you want. You could stagger them however you wanted to do them. All right, everybody, I hope you enjoyed that, the mystical dimensional number 3, and some of the options to make that look more three-dimensional. And I hope you enjoyed all of the different things that we can do with that ruler, because there are a ton. So I will see you next time on down the road. Have a wonderful day. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. And we'll see you.